Everybody, I'd like to welcome everybody to our work session Thursday, July the 12th, 2018 at 2 p.m. It's good to see everybody here. This time I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs.
Here.
Master Barger.
Here.
Master Tudor.
Here.
Master Botkin.
Present.
Judge Taylor.
Here. At this time I'd like to invite Pastor Mitch Brown up from Pleasant Run Baptist Church to lead us in a word of prayer. Mitch, I appreciate you being here.
Privilege to be here, sir. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we first of all thank you for your presence with us right now, Lord. And Father, we are so grateful that we live in a nation, Lord, where we are proud to say it is in God that we trust. Lord, it's you that we trust and depend and rely on. Father, we thank you for what is going on here today, Lord, and we thank you for all the efforts that have come forth, that these elected officials, Lord, have opted to look in the direction of a healing center and a way to bring healing to individuals, Lord, who need it the most. Lord, we thank you for this vision that they have, Lord, and we pray that all the resources be made available, Lord, to bring this about, Lord, and we pray that you would give them godly wisdom as they go through this work session, Lord, and Father, we pray that you would just allow your presence, Lord, to bring the right parties together, Lord, to make this vision a completion, Lord. Oh, Lord, we thank you for your favor that we have with you through Jesus Christ. We thank you for these officials, and we thank you for their hearts and their spirits being open to look in this direction. Thank you for their guidance. It is in God we pray. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Mitch. Sheriff, if you will.
Everybody, please stand, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thanks, Sheriff. First order of business today, guys, is our overview of our discussion points today, which is the expansion to our detention center, the healing center option, along with the financial model, funding model of how we can pay for it. So before we get started, I do want to thank everybody's due diligence in this. It's been a long time coming. This started back in 2015 with our jail task force. And that was made up by just a wonderful group of community leaders, citizens of Madison County that have a love for Madison County. And we're here today, basically 3 years later, to present really what came out of that and built on. So, I want to thank CMW on the detention center and your due diligence in a short time, Branscombe Rogers on the healing center, and then Mountain Comp Cares is right there. So appreciate you guys very much. This time I'm going to turn it over to Colleen. Colleen, thanks.
So we're going to break today's session into basically three parts. The first, we're going to talk a little bit about our jail overcrowding situation, the drug, our healing center, drug recovery facility, and then the final component will be on how we recommend for that to be funded. So what we'll do is do each section. At the end of each section will be a time for questions. Obviously, for the magistrates, feel free at any time to ask questions to the speakers. And then when we get to the end, we will open it up for any audience comments. I just want to remind everyone, we'll keep those audience comments to a 2-minute minimum for the entire time that you're on. So short questions, short follow-ups. And then we'll let you know when your time is up. In addition, we do not want to have repeat questions. So if you're making a comment, comments should be kept brief. And then obviously if we have any repeats, then we'll just ask you to step aside and have all the questions be unique until the time limit is up. Okay? Starting off, just for those of you who do not know me, my name is Colleen Cheney. I'm Deputy Judge Executive here in Madison County and have been working on this project with Reagan since we came into office in 2015. The situation that we are dealing with in Madison County here is three unique scenarios that deeply interconnect here in our county. The first is anyone who has watched Facebook or seen the Richmond Register or the Berea Citizen knows what we face in our jail overcrowding. And so CMW, when they make their presentation, is going to talk a little bit about that. But just so that you have a good understanding of what jail overcrowding does for us as a county, not only does it make it an unsafe environment for our inmates, but it also makes a situation that is unsafe for our staff. We have today, Doug, what do we say, 360?
Probably 360.
About 360 in the facility today. We are, 180, give or take, bed facility. And so we'll talk a little bit about how the jail overcrowding impacts us. The second is our drug epidemic, and that too, unfortunately, is no secret. We have heard from our employers that they no longer are drug testing because it is not worth their time and energy. We have had companies that have come here and tried to find to see if we have the workforce numbers, and unfortunately, due to our drug issue, even though we have the population, we don't have the workforce. And the third is the financial challenges that our county is facing due to the drug epidemic and the impact that that has on law enforcement with our sheriff's department, how that affects our jail budget, as well as how unfunded mandates at the federal and state level, come down onto counties with very limited revenue streams to be able to offset. And so this conversation, while focused on these three topics, is really a discussion about where we plan as a court, as a staff, where we plan to take our county in the next 20 years. So we'll start. Our jail overcrowding. For those of you who do not know, I'll briefly go through each of these. So our jail overcrowding, the chart on the right shows our inmate population from 1995 to 2017. In 1995, we had 80 individuals in our detention center. And as I mentioned, our 2017 average ended up, Reagan, will you see what that number is right there? It's like 365, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's 395.
395?
No, I think it's 365.
365. Our average in 2018 to date has been 375 prisoners. We at time have had responsibility for over 400 inmates in our facility. Just so you know, the recidivism rate for this population is 75%. So we see many of the same individuals time and time again. I think another important point that you need to know is that the individuals who are in our facility, oftentimes by the time they make it to us, one of two things has occurred. They've already gone through lower level court systems and are on good behavior, or they are in a situation where they have had so many offenses that they then find themselves at the detention center. We have no space in-house for any kind of alternative programming. We have limitations for substance abuse and education, workforce-related programming. There simply is no space in the detention center to sleep people, let alone do any kind of programming to aid in reducing the amount of times they return to our facility. We are housing inmates in other facilities. Glenna, our treasurer, how many did this year in the budget did we budget for housing inmates in other facilities?
I think 350,000.
So 350,000, that's an increase from last year. That number will continue to grow as our inmate population grows, because once we hit our allowable cap, we are required to pay other counties to house those inmates at a higher rate than it costs for us to house them ourselves. The drug epidemic. Madison County ranks 7th in overall overdose deaths as of the 2016 statistical numbers that came in. As I mentioned earlier, our employers are struggling to fill positions. Over 85% of inmates are in for some type of drug-related offense. There is no doubt to me, this 85% was in 2015. I think Doug and I have kind of talked in the past. It's even higher than that. We just didn't have the hard data. But I do know, in 2016, the number was 85%. We are in an increase even from that. And so when we talk about drug-related crimes, we talk about things like possession, you're obvious, or things like wanton endangerment of a child, prostitution, other types of crimes where the initial crime is actually, even regular burglary has an underlying issue of trying to feed or cope with a substance-related issue. The chart on the right I know that Allie, who's here today, our circuit court clerk, she can appreciate these numbers. When we started this program in this discussion in 2015, we thought our numbers were high. But let me tell you what this chart here says. In 1978, we had approximately 115 circuit court indictments. In 2015, we had about 650. In 2017, excuse me, we had 1,007. And so for those of you who don't know quite circuit court indictments, that is not district court. That is not small level offenses. Those are repeat offenders or those that are in for convictions for serious reasons. The chart on the left, the graph just shows that 85% that are in for drug-related crime, and like we talked about earlier, it's higher now. And we have a lot of people who say, hey, the county's growing, guys. Like, of course, you need to address a bigger jail because your jail needs to match your population. But something that I think it's important to know is that since 1978, we've grown in population of 41%, approximately 50,000, and we anticipate being at 100,000 people at the next census. Our indictment numbers have increased 875%. And so we need to adapt our facility for our population, but there is a second issue here, and it is our drug problem. Financial challenges. So we had a budget work session. If you would like to know the specifics, especially those that are watching on Facebook, I encourage you to watch that work session. We posted that on Facebook, and so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of each of those, but I will give you the 50,000-foot perspective. We bring in $9 million in local taxes. Occupational tax, we bring in at $3.5 million. The only option we have to raise revenue there is to have increased business in the county. The only way for us to have increased business in the county on the northern end or in some of our non-developed areas on I-75 and that urban corridor is to invest in infrastructure. And infrastructure is expensive to invest in. You're talking water, sewer, other types of projects to be able to get businesses the size that would be large employers to our county. And we are legally, as a county, capped at 1%. We cannot go any higher than that by law. Property taxes, we bring in approximately $4.2 million. And I think it's important for people to know who say, well, I pay property taxes, you know, shouldn't that pay for the expenses that you have? At the end of the day, when you look at the property tax bill, we receive 8 cents on the dollar. And to give some perspective, you know, there are other taxing districts, and I'll just give an example of the library. I think they are at, what, 5 cents on the dollar?
6.
They're at 6 cents on the dollar. The number of required mandates that we have from the state and from the federal government, things that we have to do, I could give you a very long list of what those are, far exceed what we would bring in property tax. But let's just say we opted to increase property taxes by the allowable amount eligible without doing a ballot referendum. If we were to do that in this coming season, we would only bring in $136,000 for the county.
Extra.
Extra revenue. So when you look at $136,000 for the type of cost that we have, that is, you know, usable money, obviously, but nothing that is going to offset the cost of what we're dealing with in our detention center and our drug problem. And so let's take a look at what we did this year in the budget. Past 4 years, the Taylor administration has saved over $1 million in annual reoccurring expenses. We have cut and cut and cut. We've used a lot of technology. We've streamlined significantly. But yet when we did our budget review, we had to cut 5 positions out of the road department, and we eliminated numerous projects out of the budget. The financial imbalance is based on the following. So this year we gave an additional, on top of the baseline, additional $1.5 million to the sheriff's department. Obviously he has significant increased costs due to the fact that we are a large county and that we have to handle all of those things that come with being a large county with a drug problem. And we have a HIDTA task force, and you just ended up getting quite a large fish from what I read in the paper, Sheriff Cole, so congratulations on that. A Detroit dealer out of, that was in Berea just yesterday, 2 days ago? The jail fund, we have to give 2.2 million above and beyond. Some people think that the cities of Richmond and Berea contribute to the jail. The jail is 100% the responsibility of the county. So we have so property tax alone, in theory, is supposed to cover jail costs. When you have the situation we have in our jail, there is no amount of city resident property tax that will cover that. Road fund. This year we put a $900,000 additional into the road fund. You know, for those individuals that want their roads paved. We have how many miles of road, Reagan?
About 500.
About 500 miles of road. We figured if we paved every road once, it would take us
41 years.
41 years to do each road one time. So that total is 4.8 above and beyond this year alone out of the budget from our regular general fund. So that means funds that we would use otherwise to handle services, to start things like economic development, to address many of the things that our citizens want, Will Green Lake, things like that. There are no monies overflowing for those extra services. When we look at long-term expenses, we have to be realists. The CSEP program funds the majority of the law enforcement and safety related costs in this county and has done so for 17 plus years. The CSEP program will end between 5 and 7 years. We receive as a county $1 million from the staff at the depot that will be gone after the CSEP program. That's $1 million, and that's $1 million annually. We will have to replace a megahertz system, which is what our law enforcement use to communicate with each other. Our portion of the three-way split is $1 million minimum for that megahertz radio system. And we're not talking Cadillac systems. We're talking a basic to function system. Above, you can see in the short-term expenses, this year we did put $250,000 in the required additional retirement system contribution. That's a phase-in. And so that will go up to $750,000, which will make our obligation to the state retirement $1 million annually. So when you look at that, that's $7.6 million above what is the basic services that Madison County residents expect. So when you look back at that total tax revenue we bring in at about $9 million, and you look at just the overage of 7.6, it paints a picture as to where we are financially as a county. So we have 3 options that we can do. We can, 1, reduce our jail population through recovery programming, which is what we're going to talk about today. What our recommendation based on 2 years worth of work. Attempt to stop the hemorrhaging with a revenue stream to put towards addressing the jail costs and our drug crisis through recovery programming both in and outside of our detention center. 2, we can do what we're currently doing, not expand, and continue to house inmates in other counties. We will still need a reduced revenue stream to do that, or we'll have to reduce services in order to cover that cost of housing those inmates, preparing for the risk of litigation, and for any required mandates by corrections, Department of Corrections, in the event that we are too full. Or 3, not address recovery and expand the detention center. Make no mistake, we will still have to find some revenue stream to do a jail only, and in addition, we will have to cut services. And so we always say, what's the most important road in Madison County?
One in front of your house.
It's the one right in front of your house. You don't care what's happening over in Waco if you're in northern Madison County. You certainly don't care what's happening in Valley View if you're down in Berea. So when you look at this, programs that we would consider for elimination and few on this list for a reduction. Reduce the amount of road paving, reduce our mowing services on our county roadways, move to critical road only snow removal, sell property that is currently in our investment portfolio, reduce staff in non-state and federally mandated programs, eliminate the fire department and move to a volunteer-only system, eliminate dead animal, loan-a-truck, and recycle programs, close our park system, and shut down the Battlefield Golf Course. Now, to some of you, you may look at that list and say, oh, I could see one of the two of those going off. I'm going to tell you that for the most part, many of that on that list are a very small general fund line item for us. But every amount will have to count if we look at option 3. Okay? So with that, that is the overview of where we are. And it's somber and serious, but I think we are excited at what we have to present today. With regards to our jail expansion and healing center. So at this time, I'd like to call up CMW, who has been working with Jailer Doug Thomas and us on some jail expansion work. It's wherever you feel most comfortable.
If I could
Go for it.
advance the slide, which button
Just
is
right
it?
here.
That button, okay. Again, thank you. I am Bill Pickering with CMW. Brian Hill and Brad Black are with me today. We've been working the last, since we first met with you a month and a half or so ago, 2 months ago, and been working with the judge and the jailer, evaluating the existing facility and what are the strategies and what would be the most effective strategy to develop an expansion for that project. And so let me take you first, a quick overview of the existing facility, give you some numbers, give us a quick understanding, and then I'll go through the concept design that we have today to present to you. The original jail was built in 1988. That's 30 years ago. And it was expanded on with a one-story expansion 20 years ago, back in 1998. Now, the original facility before that expansion, actually the rated capacity of the building at that time was 128 beds. So when we're talking about the existing jail today with that expansion from 1998, all of the infrastructure, mechanical system, plumbing system, laundry, kitchen, medical, whatever, the vehicle sally port, the booking intake area, all those support spaces, program spacing, all the support spaces that you think about in addition to just when we talk about beds. That was all developed in 1988, and that hasn't changed. So what we're dealing with when we talk about overcrowding, when we're talking about beds, we're also needing to look at and focus on those other parts of the building that support the program that Doug is working on to address the inmate population. Thinking about the overcrowding, it occurred to me to give an example, and I realized we're in this courtroom here today, and think of this room with every single seat filled, Now double that population in this room, and then lock the doors. That's what it's like living inside the jail on a daily basis. And so with that, it occurred to me that, those are the issues that we really have to kind of come to grips with in terms of housing and in terms of the programming aspect of the facility. And so you all know the existing site. I don't have a pointer, but the jail and the top part of the building, the image is the annex building. Top of the slide is 2nd Street. Irvin is on this side, and First on the lower half. Surface parking in the back. And then, of course, the vehicle sally port also in the back of the facility, and along Irvin Street is the public entry point. So how do we expand the existing facility? Well, first of all, we have this is the existing lower level. It's again two-level facility, and this is a graphic of that site that we just looked at. So the annex building is always going to be in the top side, and so this is the existing footprint of the lower level with the sally port on the back. And so when we look at that, site considerations. Well, we, in talking with the judge and the jailer, the need to maintain some surface parking at the rear side of the site, and that's what's represented by the green. We'll get just over 51 parking spaces. Another aspect to look at for the site is maintaining and encouraging the basement level access to the annex building, which is public access for the sheriff's department as well. So that's part of the consideration for the site for how the building will expand. Also, looking internally to the building, The yellow is representing the internal circulation, the quarter system within the secure part of the jail. And so that's really the part that how we look at how do we expand that into an expansion and use that circulation system in a manner that keeps the sight lines very succinct and controlled. And also it makes it efficient for staff to move around the facility. And so we're able to, looking at that, if you see the horizontal spine through the center of the plan, expanding the building to the green side, to the back side of the building, and also the two orange arrows coming to the First Street side, two logical points to get into the building and develop a quarter system for expansion. Also, we have the vehicle sally port, which needs to be relocated and enlarged to handle the vehicle load that the jail does deal with. And because of its circulation path, it'll need to, and being a drive-through two-bay vehicle sally port, with unloading of the vehicles inside the vehicle sally port, circulation would continue to come off of 2nd Street, pass through the vehicle sally port, and enter back out onto 1st Street. Also, moving the intake and booking area and providing additional expansion space for it to occur at the rear of the facility, is illustrated in that brown square area. Also, as I mentioned, the existing infrastructure, kitchen, laundry, and so forth, that haven't changed since 1988. The kitchen, from the 1988 occupant load of 128, was expected to prepare about 140,000 meals a year. And now with the overcrowding, it is pushing 400,000 meals a year. And so I am amazed at how Doug and his staff and the people that work in the kitchen are able to keep that up and to maintain a food service for the inmates in the facility. Also, along with the kitchen, the laundry. The existing laundry now is so tight that if there are two people, as I've been in the room, if there's more than two people, you sort of have to bump around each other to move around. Very inefficient, very difficult to work in that environment, and especially when we're talking about the numbers that we're talking about. So in this plan, as you see, the red for the kitchen at the lower level, lower corner of the plan, relocating the kitchen, expanding it, and providing a service dock area to the exterior to making it easier to access and to bring in supplies and take out trash. Also relocating the laundry and expanding it. Also, with the sizes of the facility and the proposed expansion, upgrading the electrical service and relocating the emergency generator. That purple line that you see is sort of the perimeter definition of what the expansion's footprint is available with all these considerations that I've shown. And so here we have at the first level, the lower level, the expansion illustrating the housing areas and the additional program space. Also, what's in this plan is a medical area, which I'll mention in a minute when we get to the housing layout. But a medical area that doesn't exist right now. There's some separate exam rooms and separate medical cells, some treatment facility spaces that just don't exist in the current facility, which is desperately needed for a facility of this size. Now, this is, as I mentioned, two-story facility. So at the second level, how does the second level expand? Well, it expands in a similar fashion to the first level, going back to that internal circulation and how does it logically expand? And it would follow the same circulation system that's defined for the lower level, which is illustrated. The existing yellow is the circulation, and the orange arrows are depicting the proposed strategy for expansion on the circulation system. Also, from the first level expansion, we have the perimeter definition of the first level expansion and the location of the vehicle sally port. Then also at the second level, currently on the Irvin Street side is the public lobby, which is very small and restricted. And what this concept is proposing is to relocate the public lobby to the corner of First with a public access off of First Street. The public lobby would be expanded to allow also for video visitation. And what that does is within the housing area, there'll be a video portal and a video portal in the public lobby so that now the inmates will not have to be moved in the facility to the non-contact visitation area as they are now. what that does is reduces stress on the inmate, also reduces a lot of stress and on the staff and eliminating that movement. Also, by relocating the public lobby, the current public entrance becomes a staff entrance, and that entire front area that it has been limited for the staff. It's actually some of the staff space that existed in the original building 1988 has been taken away because it needed to be used for other pieces, for other programming aspects. And so this renovation would allow some additional staff space and additional space for the administrative functions to come back and expand and give them more space to actually physically work in the facilities. So that, again, that would be on the Irvin Street in that existing area. So how does that all fill out? That fills out in this manner with additional dorms and program space. Now, on that plan, the area that's in blue, again, because in working through this concept, we're also working with your budget, getting to that point of the limitation of where the budget would take us. We're proposing that this concept design also be developed in a way that allows for that roof, that one-story area that's shaded in blue, that's the expansion of the lower level, be developed structurally also now, so that in the future, that becomes additional expansion space for additional beds, dorms, and additional program space. And so that blue space illustrates, based on the concept layout shown in the dashed lines, it would represent a potential another 146 beds on top of the amount I'll be talking to you today with what the current design is illustrating. So this is how the concept design illustrates in the two levels. The lower level, the existing facility is about 18,000 square feet. And expands up to 48,000, which is about an additional 30,000 square feet. And then at the upper level, it expands about 11,000 square feet from the current 9 to taking it up to just over the 20,000. And so on both levels, there's housing. The circulation system is illustrated by the yellow, and the gray shaded area is the existing footprint of the existing facility today. At the very bottom of both the graphics is where the vehicle sally port is, and right above that is the booking area, the intake booking. And so I mentioned program, Colleen had mentioned program space, and so what we've also in this concept is the yellow here is illustrating additional existing and new program space to support the various educational and other service programming that's needed to be delivered to the inmates. And it's distributed on both floors of the facility. It includes multi-purpose and classroom spaces. The new housing distribution, it'll be primarily the expansion provides the housing in 10-bed dorms, which is a good manageable size for the jail to manage and to classify and to keep inmates separated. So what you're looking at here is the light green are the 10-bed dorms, and the red are the existing and new isolation cells. There are currently 6 isolation, and this would take that number up to 26. What you see also in the blue are medical cells, which currently there is no medical, as I said, there's really no on-site medical service facility whatsoever. This would allow for some medical cells to be able to isolate prisoners that have a contagious disease or some drug-induced issue that they have to be separated from everyone else and managed and cared for. This would allow that to happen on site. And including in that, adjacent to those cells are exam rooms and a doctor's office and supply and the secure pharmacy area. The light cream colored is the expanded booking area with addition of detox and holding areas. And so how does that all distribute out? The permanent and temporary beds will be distributed in this way in the concept expansion. As you see, the number of medium beds significantly increases from the current facility. Current facility, I believe, is something like, I'd have to go back to the slide, it's something like 22, but this is representing about a 900% increase in the medium dorm classification level for housing for the facility. Also, you'll see that there's medical cells which don't exist, and now 2 observation cells, again, for special cases, special need inmates, suicide concerns. These are 2 cells that can be constantly observed, which, again, don't exist currently. Also, diversion holding, as you see there listed. Currently, there is no diversion holding whatsoever. So again, another component of housing that will enhance the ability of the jail to manage the population. Also, this concept design is proposing is taking the current facility from 186 beds rated capacity up to 405. And if you look at the 20% overcrowding, that takes you up to 486. And again, remember, separate from that, is what I described earlier, the ability of that second level to expand over the first level is a potential of another 146 beds on top of the 405. The kitchen, laundry, intake booking, medical would all be sized now to handle that kind of number, which now is getting, approaching 600 beds as your base rated capacity. And then when you look at potential overcrowding percentage on top of that, again, those infrastructure facilities would be sized to allow for that to happen and not cause harm and issues to the operation of the facility. And so this is a quick 3D image of the expansion area all along First Street out to Irvin Street, and then around the back of the facility. The larger box in the back is the location of the vehicle sally port, and then the area space right behind that is that surface parking area that was illustrated in that early slide. The concept would be to use the same materials as the existing jail. There's no need to do something different to help to blend into the overall block of the site. And then parking, the site development. This is just an illustration of the expansion of the existing jail. That parking area in the back, the access drive from 2nd Street to the vehicle sally port back out to 1st Street. And at 1st Street, the dark gray area for the loading dock, trash area is to serve the kitchen. That light tan band across the top could be an enhanced, nice walkway from the parking area over to the rear of the annex. And part of in developing the expansion would be that hump of earth that's just behind the annex building that has the accessible ramp down to that. That could be all taken down so that the rear entrance of the annex building wouldn't be so obscured from the public for access, especially from the parking area. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. So at this time, we'll turn the lights back on. Guys, do y'all have any questions or thoughts?
Something that you may notice that is not there, that was in the rough schematic that we presented when we were at the State of the County, is the parking garage. At this time, we've made the decision to hold off on the parking garage and see what changes with the landscape of downtown Richmond in the next year or two, and make a decision in conjunction with other team members at that time. So, okay, thank you.
Guys, you have any questions? Good, right now.
The 20 million figure, is that extending it any what it could be? I mean, are we talking 18 to 20 or 20 to 22 million?
Yeah, that's,
The estimate was 19,948, I believe, so we've got to round it up to 20 million.
And that does include the addition of the number of expansion, but also the renovation of the existing jail as well.
And that's inclusive of geotech, survey
Right.
fees.
Contingencies.
Everything.
what we
Contingency.
call soft costs.
Everything.
So the first expansion would be basically 186 beds with the possibility of another 146.
the current facility is 186.
Okay, right, I understand that.
And this expansion would take it up to a 405.
405.
With turnkey space ready when the
It'd be
time
approximate.
came to increase to an additional 100.
Correct.
It'd be approximately about 219 extra additional beds, right? One of the things too we talked about too in this design was being able to have the opportunity to potentially move inmates into the new addition while and sort of freeing up the space of the old portion of the jail, because that way construction's a lot easier, takes away any of the kind of liability issues with individuals being housed, incarcerated.
Okay.
Is that figure included for the, well, I know you said it'd be heat and air, but the fact, you know, because of the smell?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, with that, seeing no other questions, we're going to move on to the second component, which is the Healing Center. Now, we have done a work session on the Healing Center. We've obviously done extensive RFPs. Those are still all on our website under our bid page for anyone that would like to review that. I'm not going to go into detail about the Healing Center because I feel that has been really well covered. Having said that, the project that you're going to look at now is a companion piece to the jail expansion. And so when you look at those numbers and you look at that recidivism number, there is no doubt that we are seeing sometimes 3 generations of families in our detention center over and over and over again. While we can continue to house and house indefinitely with minimal programming, with the number of individuals with substance-related problems, you know, the judge and I, after a long discussion, said, okay, we can do a $50 million detention center, or we could do a hybrid, and we could really look at trying to change the course of the citizens' lives. And try to make a difference and do something that has never been done before. And so I will tell you, when I say that, we have talked to many people nationwide. There is no one who is doing something quite like what we're looking at here. There are things that are on a faith-based small scale, 12 individuals tops, 20 individuals tops, but to really look at a system that works in conjunction with our judicial branch is new. And so I ask that as you go through this, if for those that are not familiar with the Healing Center, to look back at past work sessions on Facebook to catch yourself up. But it is a public-private partnership. We would be the first social services public-private partnership. I think we may be one of the first public-private partnerships still to go through the process with the state. We were only eligible to do that in the last 3 years, really 2 years, I think. And so I encourage you to look back at that. But it would be a 3-step recovery program that would go from the individual 30-day treatment all the way up into workforce entry. So I'd like to thank Mountain Comp Care. They are the team that has been working with us on this project, and they partnered with the team over at Branscombe as well as Sherman Carter Barnhart. And so I don't know, I think everyone's going to kind of come up and present on this part. So with that, I will call both teams up, and Jackie can scream from the audience since she's landlocked in over there. I think there's 2 pieces of information that are critical. This is a rendering on a 40-acre piece of land. There is not a particular piece of land that has been selected for this site. So what you are looking at is a 40-acre drop. Yes, go right ahead. Just left, right. Yeah, just your left, right arrows. That goes forwards.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh Branscombe, and I'm with Branscombe W. Rogers, and with me is Mike Smith, Sherman Carter Barnhart. First, I just want to say we appreciate the opportunity to work with you on this project. There's each project we build and design they're all special and unique. This project's special and unique, but it's personal also. This project touches probably every person in this room. With that, you can look at this and you probably a face of a relative or of a friend or a friend of a friend pops in your head as someone that would need a facility like this. So you know, it's different in that it's a personal project, and I want to commend you because you've realized what we've done for so long, just incarcerating people, is not working, and taking that initiative to change that and to find a way to help folks. I just want to commend you for that. So we're very excited for that opportunity. The process up to this point, we've had multiple meetings with the judge, deputy judge, their staff, Jackie, Mountain Comp, and Sherman Carter Barnhart, and our design build team, construction team as well. We've had multiple meetings and kind of design and sessions to really talk about the programming of the facility. What would it look like? What's needed? We took a trip down to Prestonsburg to one of the Mountain Comp facilities as well, and that was a great opportunity for us as a team to really look at how their operations work, and also to get to talk to the staff as well. If you could do it over again, you know, what would you do? What are things that you're missing now that you wish you had that would make you more effective and more efficient? So we've continued to update the programming on this facility, and you know, try to make it a facility that's functional and that's going to help to treat people. So with that, I will turn over to Mike and let him talk a little bit about the buildings, the programs of the buildings, and the functions of the buildings, and show you some of those.
Thanks, Josh, and we're glad to be here with you today. We're excited about this project. As Josh said, it touches everybody personally, and so we're always really happy to be involved in something that makes people's lives better. So I'm just going to walk through this real quickly for you all. Ask any questions if we go along if you want, or we can go back at the end. So what we're looking at here, as Colleen said, is the site plan. What we envision here is a campus. This basically is designed around the way that the Mountain Comp Care program functions. And what does that mean? That means that there's a certain process that they follow. It's very orderly and structured, but it's also going to be residential. It's a campus, so there are things on the campus that will allow people to exercise and to have activities, so people are engaged. So they're not just there with a lot of idle time. And Jackie's folks do a great job with that. We saw that up at the Prestonsburg facility. And so, in looking at this map, to orient you, you'd enter on the left, we envision. You'd come down, and that first building you come to would be the clinic building, and that's where individuals, when they first come to the program, are introduced to the program. Then you move up from that to the two buildings that are just above it, in the middle there on the left and the right. Those are the phase 1 buildings, and you can see we've got some lighter tan buildings. Those are future buildings, so we've built in some expansion for the program as well. All the dark tan buildings are what are envisioned in this project that we're talking about today. Then if you move straight up from there, you've got the clinic building. Clinic building is where a lot of the administrative staff work and operate, and that really relates to the two top buildings, which are phase 2 and 3. So there's 3 phases that move from the bottom of the site plan up to the top there. And now we're just going to go through some of the individual buildings and give you an idea of how the plans work, what functions are in there, what they do, and then what we envision they'd look like. So this is, again, sort of an overview of the site. You can see some of the amenities we envision. This is the Central Services building. This is the first building that people come to. You'd enter down in the middle on the left-hand side. You come into a nice lobby. There's a reception area. There are areas for people to be interviewed. Then they move on back into the intake area. And then on the right-hand side, you see administrative services for all the people that work in the Central Services building. If you go straight up the building in the plan, in the back there where the round tables are, that's a dining facility. That's where the people that are in the phase 1 program, they'll come and they'll work here. So they're actually engaged. They're taught to cook. They cook their own meals. There is a bedroom there for people that need medical help. They've got a nurse on staff there. And so that's the basic function of this building. And this really is just for the phase 1 people. And this is what we envision this might look like. This is how you would approach it from the front. And this would be the back. It was felt like we wanted to have an outside dining area. They've got that at some of their facilities. That's been very successful in allowing people to get outside and improve their health. So we've got a nice patio designed for the back. That's off the dining room. The large windows that you see there, which are the blue elements on the facade, would be the dining room inside of there. This is the clinic building. This is, again, very much administrative. You'd enter in the front, you've got a waiting area, and then you come back to the middle, and this is really basically mountain comp care. All their folks here on the right-hand side of the plan. Up in the middle, you've got some classrooms there, and this is some instruction that takes place for people who are in the phase 2 and 3 of the program. And this is what we envision this building to look like. We envision this to be very non-institutional. If you walked up, you might think it was very residential. We're going to use stone. We're going to use siding. It's going to be very low maintenance, very high quality materials, shingle roofs, things like that, that if you have to have them maintained over the years, you can use people here locally to maintain the buildings. This is the phase 1 building. This is where everybody that enters the program initially will stay. There will be 2 of these. It's very important that we separate the genders. There'll be a male phase 1 building and a female phase 1 building. And there, you can see we spread them pretty far apart on the site because we want to keep some distance, just literally some physical distance between those. This building, you would enter on the right-hand side in the middle there, and there's 2. There's a duty officer that supervises that entry and exit, and also has a view into the living area, the living room in the middle of the building, and then on the other side of the entry is a counselor who is a backup supervisor. So you've got very close supervision of the living space and people coming and going from the facility. To either side of the living space in the middle, you see rooms for the individuals. They're shared rooms. They're a suite. There are 2 individuals in a room. They'll have a desk, a dresser, a closet, bed, and then 4 people will share a bathroom. So it's a sort of a suite style. If you move on to the left, you get back into the 2 rooms. There's 2 counseling rooms because they have counseling sessions here, so we have to have some space to accommodate that. Then moving further to the left, on the bottom, you've got a little laundry there. So it's a big part of getting these people on the path to independence is getting them started to do some laundry on their own. So getting them to do sort of this simple daily task that you have to be an independent individual. And in the very back is exercise, which is an important component of this to keep their physical body in shape as much as mentally working on them. And this is what we envision here. This would be the entry. Again, it's got some siding, pulling in the rural context of Madison County and Kentucky, stone base, and then the back area with a little bit of porch here. This is the phase 2 building. This is a very big building. We've got on the bottom an overall plan. You enter essentially in the middle of the overall plan. You come into a living room combined dining room area, and then on the left side is individual, almost a studio apartment. It doesn't really have a kitchen in it, so it's not quite a studio apartment, but those are 1-person units, and that is the phase 3. On the right-hand side is phase 2. Those are, again, are suite units where you've got 4 individuals per suite in there. And then in the middle, you've got a kitchen. It's a little bit different here. These individuals are in different stages of independence. The phase 3 people, for instance, might be leaving to go to work and coming back, so they're the most independent of the 3 phases. And phase 2 is a little bit less independent, but they all cook their own meals in the kitchen here. Not in the same group way that they do in phase 1. These are more individuals cooking because their schedules are going to vary, but we've given them a kitchen area in the middle, and then a dining area and a living room area for socialization. And then again, this is what we envision the front of the building looking like, and the back of the building. And again, they really, in talking to the folks at Mountain Comp Care, they said having the outdoor space really, really helps the program and helps people feel good about themselves and develop. So we've had a lot of patios and porches and things to help them get outside here. And then I'm going to turn it over to Josh to talk about the cost.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. So as you just seen the plans there, the total facility square footage is currently just 68,766 square feet. The building construction estimate is $13.5 million, which comes out to about $196.32 per square foot. We also have put in a furnishings and equipment allowance, which would be for the kitchen equipment, desks, furniture, couches, things like that, the beds for the residents there. And then the site estimate of $3 million, which would be all your mass excavation, heavy duty, light duty, pavement, curbs, gutters, site utilities, sidewalks, things of that nature.
So I wanted to note, two things in particular, just so that everyone was aware. The data that is below the line was not a component of the bid. We asked all the bidders that came forward to not address site, since we did not have a site selected. So this number is an estimate, not knowing what site that we are on, but what we would anticipate to be pretty much a capped number on that. So if we end up finding a site that is able to, eliminate some of the costs, we would obviously move towards that. But those two numbers right there are not part of that bid. The 13.5, when we came to meet with Mountain Comp Care and with the team for design, one of the things that we asked at the time was identify those things that you have not historically been able to do that hindered success. And so when we look at this 13.5 number, we wanted to make sure we had a ceiling. I will tell you all that our final project cost will be below 13.5 million. This is a ceiling for us. There are going to be components of this that we will not tackle or we will reduce. Jackie and I have talked about, having shared office space, reducing some of those components of the 13.5. We will have that reduced, and when we come time to do a final discussion, we'll have some firm numbers on that for you. So this is a cap.
Once again, we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
What do you think
Yeah, go ahead, Larry, I was just
what do you think the final estimate will be? You said less than 13.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, this isn't my area of specialty, but I definitely think that we'd be looking at 12, 5, 13. Is that fair, Reagan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've looked at these numbers, I've run them. I mean, obviously, when you compare, costs, square footage costs, even using these numbers, it's quite a bit cheaper, going this route per square foot to build this facility than it is a jail, when you compare actual cost per square foot. So, I think today's overall scope and outcome is to present these ideas. I think this particular piece is the Cadillac of the Healing Center. I think this number right here could fluctuate $1.5 million, on average. I think. So we'll see, when that comes. And this would all be presented and finalized back to the fiscal court.
Correct.
At a later date. So.
Correct.
How many people this house total?
Jackie, do you want to kind of talk to that a little bit? Why don't you come up to the mic if you can slide out, if that's possible.
Sure.
Sorry. Oh, you guys can stay.
Oh.
You have to go.
Good afternoon, Jackie.
I told her she didn't have to talk, so, unless there were questions, so sorry.
That's okay. So in phase one,
Lean forward on that mic a little bit, Jackie.
And introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Jackie Long. I am the Director of Housing and Grants for Mountain Comprehensive Care. The first phase, which is the initial treatment phase, will house 30 people, no, 32. It's two 16-bed dorms. That's very specific to, for billing purposes. The reason we chose 16 beds in each, but we could expand it to 2 sites too, so another 32.
So just so you all know, the first 30 days with regards to Medicaid reimbursement, you can only have 16 under a roof. So strategically, the facility layout is keeping that in mind for 100% reimbursement
So you're
for
talking
those
about-
eligible.
You're
For those
also
eligible.
talking about 16 male, 16 female. Is that
Correct. That's 2 facilities at the moment, 16 each. That's 32 for the 30-day program. 30-day old, first 30 days only. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, and then in the second phase, we planned for 60 people to be in that, so 30 male, 30 female, and then housing 30 in phase 3. Phase 3 being, we're not providing housing for everybody in phase 3. The idea is that if they have a sober place to return to, then they could go home. A lot of people don't, or feel like they need that extra support, so they could live there for a time until they felt like that they were stable enough, and they'll be working during this phase also.
And talk a little bit, Jake, too, just about the opportunity for the outpatient as well. Some of those individuals could still utilize
Yes.
our clinic building as an outpatient facility, correct?
Yes, so they will have the opportunity to come back to the campus, even if they are not living on the campus, and access services at that outpatient clinic, which is why it's part of the reason that it's designed like that, is that, that one building can serve not only phase 2 and phase 3 residential, but also as they go back into the community for as long as they need. I mean, we can have NA meetings there, and, you know, they could be 2 or 3 years out of the program and still access services there.
Is there any grant funding for phase 2 and 3?
Phase 3 especially, I believe that there will be a lot of grant funding that we can access. Because that would be a lot of workforce development. There will be some that we can access through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration that that we could do for phase 2 also.
Will that be state money or federal money?
That's federal money.
Federal?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing through the state?
There's not usually a lot of state grants that come out for that. There occasionally are, and we will certainly access that. But there are a lot of funds that come out
Are
of the
these
SAMHSA.
grants matching money or?
Not usually.
Okay.
The federal are not. That is, we design a program.
Like 80-20 or whatever, I didn't know.
No, the federal grants are not matching, not normally matching funds. Sometimes they will require matching funds that we match it with staffing. It doesn't really, it's not a true match, it's more leverage.
But there is money available?
So we were waiting to have a final presentation and bring this to you before we went to with a formal presentation to the governor's office, to Leader McConnell, to Congressman Barr, to Senator Paul, Congressman Rogers, Comer, our entire delegation. And we have had conversations with each of them about this topic, or most of them, I should say, about this topic, and they're just waiting for us to come. We've already had, that they are willing to write a letter of support and to advocate for us through that process. To answer your question about state money, there is a pot of state money for opioid. It's federal money as a pass-through through the state, so we will be working with the governor's office to see if we can access that. Obviously, any of that funding will lower this overall cost of the project.
Jackie, Magistrate Botkin and I toured your facility up in Christiansburg, and this is basically what you have up there, is that correct?
It
Off at
is, the central building and the 2 dorms are what we have up there. The phase 2 and phase 3 we don't currently have up there.
Okay.
And we don't have the clinic building. So we do a 30-day and 90-day program up there, and this is a longer program.
So the goal, what makes this unique is the component of workforce. And so there are going to be workforce development funds above and beyond just opioid-related funding that we've looked at. That's out of the education cabinet. And so we'll be seeking those as well. But workforce is a huge component of this, and working with our local factories and trying to work to get individuals employed. During the 30 to 90 day phase, where they may not be work ready yet, because you have to remember, a lot of the people that we're dealing with have very little foundation with regards to basic skills. I mean, forget work skills, we're talking life skills. And so that is something that we will stress in those between the 30 and 90 day, but we will have an opportunity to be able to utilize those individuals as part of our county programs. And so as we talk about landscaping and projects for people, animal shelter, we've talked about canine therapy programs, we've talked to the Commissioner of Agriculture about working on farming related programming. So there are some other avenues, being on a piece of property like this, as well as having that additional workforce component that makes it unique to other programs. We have a vested interest in these people becoming taxpayers. That's very different than what a private sector facility is interested in. A private sector facility that is interested in having a bottom line and reporting to a board of directors. We have a public sector interest here in having an employable workforce that are taxpayers.
And a healthy workforce.
Healthy workforce. So, thank you, Jackie. Any other questions?
I think we have endless opportunities here, and just having roundtable discussions, just brainstorming about this. I mean, we've had discussions with Habitat, Kenny, you know, about opportunities
To do a
there
phase
to-
4.
to partner.
Maybe a sobriety community.
You know, and you know, we really want this to grow. We really want this to be a potential model that has success rates that are going to win this war on drugs. I mean,
What
at the end
is
of
the
the day.
success rate?
That's a really good question.
Well, you got some idea.
Yes.
I said,
I've
I
got a
think,
good
I told
idea,
Jackie, I
but
said, I
if
think
we
you're gonna
pass,
get this question.
I was gonna get
Don't
this
build a
question.
wall, give us the money, and we'll build both of them.
So, the success rate is a hard question. However, we participate in the Kentucky Treatment Outcome Study, which is a study of all taxpayer-funded programs that, so because we get taxpayer money, we participate in it, and they keep our statistics basically for us. It's hard for an individual program like ours to keep 6 and 12 month statistics because sometimes people leave our grasp and we can't keep up with it. So this year's, the 2018 Kentucky Treatment Outcome Study says that there has been, there has been significant reductions in the past 12 months in the state of Kentucky. 74% of people going into treatment reported any kind of illegal drug use at intake. And at follow-up, only 28% reported illegal drug use. Also, 46% of the clients reported opioid misuse at intake, and at follow-up, only 12% reported opioid abuse. So that's a really good statistic. These programs don't have the workforce development component. So I expect that it's going to be a higher rate of success here. Also, the best thing that comes out of this study is that they look at the money that is put in, the taxpayer funds that are put in, and then how much of a return the taxpayers get. And so in 2018, the estimate of cost savings for taxpayers for every dollar spent on treatment was $3.46 in return, which I think that's a huge return on an investment. So.
And a lot of the statistics that you're looking at are key statistics about being clean and sober. But for us, we have an additional component about jail overcrowding. And so when you're dealing with 85% recidivism, and we're seeing the same individuals over and over and over again, whether they're coming in new, if we can catch them early and you are not having that 85% recidivism, if we can reduce that down to 60% recidivism, 50% recidivism, not re-entering into jail, having a support system even if they fall off the wagon to be able to come back through to the healing center, that provides an opportunity for us to address that citizen time and time again without having them through our judicial system.
Any other questions?
Well, even if you had 60, that's really not helping the jail that much, but it's a start.
And those will keep moving. Just remember that's 32 for a 30-day period. You'll have a new 32 coming in, so you'll have outpatient combined. We also have the home incarceration program. We'll be able to address some outpatient with home incarceration. We're going to talk to USDA about doing remote health care as some components for those that are in home incarceration that have substance-related. And so those are places where even Mountain Comp Care is able to be in our detention center and help with some SAP programming in that area. And so it'll that's that interconnectivity between creating, a common thread of support.
You know, I've said many times that one thing's not going to win this war. It's got to be a collaboration of things. It's got to be intervention, prevention. We've got to have harsher punishments on the cartels and the people that are bringing it in here. So, I think this idea and this model that we're presenting here today is really a collaboration of things. We've already started and partnered with our cities and our school system on the intervention component in our school system with the Too Good for Drugs program. This year it's expanding into the 3rd grade. Last year it was 6th grade, so now we're going to be 6th and 3rd. The following year we want to expand it into 8th grade. So, this is and I've said it, this drug epidemic is a community problem. You know, it's not just a county problem or a city of Richmond problem or city of Berea problem or a school system problem. It is a true community problem. Financially, it just hits the county harder from a financial standpoint than it does other entities. So.
And keep in mind that this would also support those that are going through the Angel program. We are an Angel site for state police post here. So this would enable an opportunity for those that voluntarily come forward at the state police through that program, as well as those going through Casey's Law through the court system with families seeking assistance as well. So thank you guys.
Thank you all very much. Hey, can we take a quick We're live. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate everybody giving us a little break. I think it's good for everybody. At this time, we're going to move on to our funding options part of our presentation. I do want to say before I turn it back over to Colleen that there's two groups that have been with us from the very beginning that I think have been wonderful asset to getting here today. And I'll start with John Ferris with Commonwealth Economics. Man, thank you from the bottom of my heart of your firm and what you all have done to help us to get to this data. Also, Jackson Kelly, Patrick's back there. Jay couldn't be here today, but we really appreciate them from the very beginning of the RFP, going the P3 route, and appreciate what the information you put here together today for us. So kudos to you guys. All right.
Judge, I'd just like to make a comment on what we've seen so far. I can tell you that me personally, I'm not happy about a $20 million jail. I'm even less happy about a $13 million healing center. However, I've talked to a lot of people. Not one person that I run into that said that we don't need to do something with our jail. People are tired of being robbed, they're tired of being stole from, they're tired of working and just seeing it go out. They're tired of all kinds of things. That number even multiplied when I talked to people about a healing center and our idea that we had. We haven't seen none of this. This is the first time we've seen any of this. But that number even escalated when I talked to folks of the number of ones that were touched. And I'm not just talking about families with one person, with one child, or one daughter. I'm talking about people that had multiple children. One lady had 2 daughters that were both drug addicts. So, I mean, you know, it's just the society that we live in today. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. We're right here, right now. We've got to do something. We all know that. These are good programs. You know, I'm sure maybe Doug would like to have more in the jail. Maybe we'd like to give him more in the jail. But, you know, what we've seen is something I think would work over there. So maybe we can pay for it. Let's hope we can pay for it.
John.
Well, thank you. I'm John Ferris, founder and president of Commonwealth Economics. It's a privilege to be here today. Our firm, for the last 10 years, we've been doing what I'll call hard asset infrastructure projects and structuring the finance behind them. Bridges, roads, stadiums, arenas. There's not really a big project in Kentucky outside of Kentucky Wired on 75 that our firm hasn't advised on. And while we have the opportunity to work on many neat projects, this one is special. This is a first time where we're really trying to do social infrastructure for the state. Other states and other places in the state, you know, we know how to build a bridge, we know how to build a road, and do parking garages, dorms, and things like that, and they're great. But this is one of the biggest challenges of our in our state, not just in your community, and for Madison County and the judge and you all and Colleen to take the lead. It's a privilege to be here. Our firm is really wants to help this project get over the finish line, really create a model for the rest of the state to follow your lead in tackling this issue. So thank you all, just to consider this and consider it with an open mind as to try to bring a solution to a problem. So what we do is we look at for public-private partnerships and other infrastructure projects across the state, our firm looks at ways to solve the financing mechanism. We've worked with just about every municipality and university in the state. We've done all of University of Kentucky's, when I say done, we've structured all the finance behind University of Kentucky's P3 projects, the arenas, the Commonwealth Stadium, the dorms, the new student center. Currently working on with City of Lexington and LCC on the Rupp Arena project. We structured the Omni project in Louisville, a number of parking garages, a number of marinas, and other facilities around the state. We try to figure out ways to finance complex, hard, difficult projects, and we think we're pretty good at it. We have several partners in Lexington, but we work all over the state. So with that, I'll tell you a few things. You may know, and you probably experience this. Kentucky is one of the most tax-centric states in the country, meaning that your taxes flow into Frankfurt, and they decide how to divvy it up. They don't always come back, and they don't give you a lot of flexibility. In other states, you have options like local option sales tax and others to solve issues like that, bring funding for infrastructure. And so what you're left with here are a few options, and I think really just one option, and I want to hone in on that, the insurance premium tax, and talk about what kind of revenues we estimate that would bring to the county. So first, just look at it from a global perspective. The new jail option, the task force had 40 to 50 million, so that's a lot of money, and probably has gone up since then with construction increases and inflators. And then what we've heard about today at the outside of 20 and 17, it's probably back down, I think the judge said maybe 20 and 13. Those are the hard dollar costs, but you're also getting additional savings. They're hard to quantify, but you're getting, with some of the design and everything, the operating cost savings for the jail with decreased recidivism, the quality of life in the community, which we just heard about, and increased workforce. And I think, not just, and we heard about, not just these numbers, but I think along the way, once you get going, Colleen and others, there'll be grant money to sort of support some of the risk and infrastructure that you're taking. So it won't just be this tax, but I'm here to talk about this tax and how it can be used to pay for the facility. The local government premium tax, LGPT is called overview, is set up by statute, allows counties and cities to collect a percentage of insurance premiums, including fire, casualty liability, vehicle, inland marine, health, life, and other. State law requires insurance companies to credit the city LGPT, the premium tax, against any premium tax imposed by the county. So, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but the city of Richmond and Berea currently impose taxes, so you would have to credit their tax. For example, if a city had an 8% tax, only 2% would be available to the county from those residents. However, there's a further, I'll say, challenge with the cities, if you will, in that they can then come in and, if they're being taxed 10%, increase their local portion to the 10% and collect it all for themselves. So there's really, when we've looked at it across the state, we really feel like that the cities that are already imposing the tax, it would be difficult to receive any funds from Richmond and Berea via this tax. So we're really just talking about, at this point, a county tax. Some other counties across the state, 37 counties, 350 cities imposing LGBT. Some Davies counties, Henderson County, Orem County, brought those up because they have some similar demographics and some similar to Madison County. More specifically, when we were able to dive into the data, probably the best comparison from that is, that we've been able to find that has a county imposing a tax and then 2 cities within that county imposing a tax that are similar in size, is Daviess County and Owensboro area. You know, your populations are roughly the same. Your city populations, your county populations, and your household income are relatively similar. When we look further at Daviess County and their collection rate, and really, you know, as a firm, what we're interested in is if you impose this tax, what is the revenue per capita per percent that you're imposing? So look over on you can see that the rates that they're charging in different areas, and you have the statutory authority to charge different rates in different areas and on different types of insurance. And you see that we're interested in the per capita revenue, which gives you a per capita per percent amount per tax, and that helps with modeling purposes. And I'll show you that further. But you can look at the far right count, you know, between $12 and $18 per capita per percent charged for the tax. While I said Richmond and Berea may be hard to get actual revenue to the county from them because of the way the mechanism of the statute, they are instructive in helping with us understand the data in terms of what are they receiving per capita per percent by their charges, and we do a weighted average here. And we see that, you know, Berea basically $10.71, and Richmond at $12.19. So what does this mean for you all? Oh, someone stole my punchline. I'm hitting Colleen. Trying to go forward. Somebody's in the back. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, here they all are together. You can see we've gone over this numbers between 10 being the low, 18 being the high for Owensboro, but really a lot in the county range fall in the area of $12. So what does this mean for Madison County? This stuff is not an exact science. We really won't know what you'll bring in until you impose a tax, wait a year, and see the amount. But our best estimates are that if you look at the different models that we put together, and the models are based on the revenue per capita per percent, and you assume 10% because a lot of the counties are at 10%. We've seen them, several percentages points higher than that. Some have a few lower, but to make the math easy, we're assuming 10%, and we assume 10% across the board. Now, this can be adjusted, and our models can be adjusted likewise too. But we did a blended average, and we took into account a lot of different factors, including the current county-specific population, and looked at revenue per capita per percent. And if we use the lower Berea model, in terms of what they're collecting in that same ratio, the county could expect to bring in about $4.3 million. If you had a model that was more similar to Daviess County, in the 5.6, and then sort of in the middle is when I say Richmond model, I mean just like how much they're collecting from their population, and that's 4.9. So I think that would be a good barometer. Somewhere between 4.4 million and 6 million, probably closer to 5 million, and that is if you looked at 10%, across the board. So again, unlike property tax, which we can model within, a few percentage points, or actually within a standard deviation of being correct. This tax is a little different. You won't know exactly until it comes in and it's charged. But I would say we feel within, these estimates are pretty solid. We continue to refine these estimates and may have some updates for you, as we go along. But At this point, this is where we feel that the numbers will likely shake out if you were to impose a tax at this rate. And with that, I'll stop and answer your questions.
Now, John, those numbers are assuming that we don't receive any of the extra 2% from Berea or Richmond, or that's Madison County only numbers?
These are Madison County only numbers. I should stress that, and that's a good question. And if you were to have some sort of agreement with Richmond and Berea, I don't know how binding that agreement could be, but it would be a good thing to ask them to potentially share in this burden. But I just wanted to be conservative and assume that, let's say they don't want to share in their assumption, or what would happen is they would go up to 10%, and then the citizens in that area would go up to 10%, and then what do they decide to do with that extra 2 or 4% each year? And I think that's a question. They're not in these numbers, but they could be additive to this amount. Certainly, that could be a lot.
It could amount to a whole lot.
It could.
If they're willing to
Yes.
share some of that tax burden down to the county.
Yes.
Yeah, if you looked at that, if you looked at just the city of Richmond's percentage of 8%, you just divide that by about 8, that was about 400,000
Yeah, if we go back,
Roughly.
is this what you're talking about?
per
So-
percent. So if you were able to work a deal out with the city of, you'd be looking at approximately $700-some thousand that would be their 2%.
Yes. Other questions? That was a good one. Okay.
To me, this goes back to show that this is not that this is a community problem. I mean, this is, and we're open to have those kind of discussions and want to have those kind of discussions with the leadership in both cities. I was very proud of Berea early on when we started doing this, of them publicly endorsing it and realizing the problem. And we would love to have that discussion.
John, does Owensboro share their percentage with Davies County?
Specifically for I do not know the answer to that question. I can find it out for you. We've done a lot of
On
work
the chart there, it looks like if they did, it would just be 0.9%. And the Whitesville, it looked like they were the same as Davis County. So. Thanks, John. Appreciate that.
The final point, I just wanted to kind of conclude all of that, based on the numbers you've seen from John Ferris and his team. Glenn and I have sat down and kind of looked at the numbers, Glenna Baker, our treasurer, and we feel comfortable in expressing to you all that based on the numbers that you saw today and based on the estimated, even though they are at the top, we would be able to fulfill a bond payment obligation using our historical data of what we've gotten for interest rate, et cetera, to cover the cost of both facilities. I did see, the beauty of social media, the beauty of Facebook, is that as we've been going through the meeting, I've been able to watch the comments as they've come in. And so one of the questions that were asked was, would the individuals at the facility be in the state retirement system? And the answer to that question is no, they would not. The beauty of the public-private partnership is they would be employees of Mountain Comp Care, and so they would not be Madison County employees. So to answer that Facebook question, and then I think something that we would like to stress, I know there'll be a lot of people who go home tonight because they're at work right now and they'll watch this and they'll want to keep asking questions, and that's great. If you are an individual and there's 2 or 3 of you on there that are have a lot of questions and a lot of ideas, and I would ask that you call our office, 859-624-4700, and set up an appointment with me. Some of you have a lot of questions or a lot of comments about how it won't work, and so I'd like to hear your suggestions on what we do. So with that, feel free to call my office and we will set those appointments up. I know each of the magistrates, I'd like to just give an opportunity for each of you to comment, for the judge to comment, and then at that point, we will open it up for any questions in the audience. Okay, hold on just 1 second. Do you want to go with the audience first, Ray? Or do you all want to go first?
Audience is fine.
Okay. Sir, if you'll just stand up,
Hey, take it.
I'll bring the
Get
mic, and then I ask that you just introduce yourself. Hold on just a second.
And state if they're a Madison County citizen.
Sure. Madison County citizen. Just say
Bob Moody. I live in Southern Hills. It's a lot of trouble for a short question. Have we looked at the ordinance as a possible site for your healing center?
Yes, we have. We actually went to Washington D.C. back in the summer of 2016 to actually not only really necessarily talk about the ordinance for the healing center, but potential jail. And the ordinance is tied up for many years. So that is not even, there's not even an opportunity there. Thanks for your question, Mr. Moody.
I thought Bob would donate 48.
Be nice. Did you hear that? Hey, give him the mic back real
I'm
quick.
coming,
No, don't
I'm
speak
coming.
yet. We gotta get this on record right here. Hold on.
Feel compelled to respond to that. Not about a donation, but I do want to caution the fiscal court that this is one of the 4 exceptions that you talk about in executive session. The purchase or sale of real estate. And I can attend an executive session.
Any other questions? Okay, Judge?
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Open it up for any kind of discussion, any kind of words that y'all would like to say.
Guess I'm getting to jump ahead of anybody. I've been magistrate for 16 years. And the job's not easy, but it's a job, and you gotta do your job. It's an election year, and who wants to try to decide what we gotta decide to do when there's some of them people out there that's gonna say, I can't vote for you. That's besides the point. You know, it's just like when I run a muffler shop and the part went up $5 because I gotta pay the bills. And when you're at home and you got electric bills and they go up, you got to pay the bill. We buy gas every day and we have no idea what the price of it's gonna be tomorrow. You know, it could be 50 cents higher or $1 higher. Next day it might be back down, but it might stay that way for 2 months. But I got a job to do, and it's to try to provide money to pay the bills for this county, and that's part of our job. Sometimes that means we got to add a tax or a fee on to help pay for it. We're going to pay out of the pocket just like everybody else does. We're not exempt from it in any way. But I was really concerned for the last couple of years that we've been dealing with this. It's been going on longer than that. For the last 2 years, it's got really tough about what we're going to do. The $40 to $50 million, I just said, you know, we can build a $100 million jail, but I want to know how we're going to pay for it. It's not the price of it as much as it is how you're going to pay the bill. And I think this is a very good way to do it. One of the better ways, I think, to where we can get enough money to be able to afford it, to pay for it. But the figures that we're talking about are close. You know, I'm no construction guy or whatever, but I assumed that the jail part was probably going to be in the 18 figure, and I had no idea on the Hilton Center. But I think that can be worked out to get close. You people know what your figures are and what you can do, what you can't do. I just worry about overruns because it's going to happen. Things go wrong that you didn't think was going to go wrong. We had it with the annex. Had some terrible experiences there, so that just kind of makes me gun shy in a way because of that. But I just wanted people to know out there, I mean, no matter whether they're in my district or not, but I'm going to do the job that I was sworn to do.
Thank you, Roger.
As Roger said, you know, things have really changed in the last 20 years. We didn't expect the population of the jail to be what it is today. We didn't expect the opioid epidemic to be rampant like it is, but we can't sit by and let it continue. We have to make steps to change that. I was on the jail task force in 2016. We visited over 7 different jails. About 15 members of the community here did. Everybody from lawyers to doctors to jailers to the sheriff, magistrates, Judge Taylor. We went to 7 to 8 different jails throughout the state of Kentucky. And the only jail that really hit home with me and made a difference, that was making a difference in their community, was a little town over in Marion County, Lebanon, Kentucky. And they have programs they're working through. Their recidivism is about 29% over there. And I thought, you know, that would be great if we could get Madison County down around 40, 50, even 30% recidivism. That recidivism is repeat offenders that are going back and doing the same thing, and drug overdoses, one right after another. Our sheriff, our EMA, they're facing overdoses every day, and they're hitting them with Narcan and bringing them back two and three times. These people need some help. It's not incarceration problem. It's a mental problem. It's a health problem, and we have to deal with it as a health problem, not incarcerating. So this is something we're going to have to deal with. How we pay for it is, you know, looks like from Mr. Ferris here, he only gave us one option here. So either we move forward or we let it stand still to where it is. I'm one of the first ones that don't want to raise taxes, but people, we're going to have to do something, you know.
John, I appreciate your comments there, because I think you bring up a good point that I don't think really came out today that much, is that the counties don't really have a lot of options to increase revenues. You know, that's one of the challenges that counties face today, and that's really all 120 counties. And I've said many times that Madison County really is a minority amongst counties. There's only a few counties in the state of Kentucky that are really over a 30,000 population. And statute states that any counties that are under 30,000 population, they get fees and percentages of the city's taxes, occupational taxes. I mean, if you could just think today, if Madison County got any kind of percentage, 1/4% of the city of Richmond's occupational tax, or Berea's occupational tax, you know, that would really financially help us, where we might not have to do anything. And so I appreciate your point, because counties are limited. You know, the property taxes has got such a scourge on it that it's such a minute amount that it brings in that it doesn't really help. It really does not help it whatsoever. So, thanks for the comment. Tom, Larry.
Well, you know, I guess over the last 3 years or 3.5 years now, I've been to a lot of trainings, been to a lot of seminars, been to a lot of sessions, and I'll just tell you, all of this to some degree for me was new. I came up on the law enforcement side. I came from the military. I came from the hardliner side of it. You did the crime, you did the time. That was just the bottom line. However, I've been in enough training. I've seen enough things. I've heard enough other county talks about their problems, these seminars that we go to. You cannot build enough jails to put everybody in jail that needs to be in jail. You break your counties. You'll have no county if you do that. So we have to address this problem. It's got to be fixed. And I mean, this is the way. This is our option. This is what we've been given. This is our mechanism to fund it. This is our mechanism to pay for it. I don't like it, but it's what we got. It's what we got to deal with.
Thanks, Tom. Larry?
Well, I don't like it either. I'll be the first to admit that. And Judge, you know, when we talked about the property tax, it's just 36,000. That won't pay the interest on what we have to have. So, I mean, that's not a good option, because they won't even pay the interest. And I've always said, you know, some people rent, they don't pay no taxes, but they get the same benefits as all you all. I'm sure they probably pay it some through their rent each month, but there's probably a lot of them don't pay no property taxes whatsoever, but they get every benefit you get, parks, recreation, roads, or whatever, they get it all. I was hoping that there would be another option. I know the bonding level, I guess, at this time probably is as cheap as it's ever been.
That'd be a question for Glenna. That's really not my area of expertise. Oh, she said yes.
I thought it would be, but I was here when we built the oven. And if I know what I know today, I said, let's add one more floor to it. But I didn't know that. But I do now. And the healing center, one good concept about it, there's some funds out there for that, but there's none for this jail over here,
Correct.
and haven't been. What little bit the state gives us is nothing. And they're usually 30, 60 days late, aren't they, Glenn? Of course, I'm sure they're trying to scratch up enough money for themselves, and I understand that. But I don't have an answer for it. It's gonna be a tough decision on this court, I can tell you that. But hopefully whatever does happen will be the right decision. And I'll reserve anything else till a later date.
I do want to say one more thing.
Thanks, Larry.
I've talked to our jailer, I've talked to Doug. We've had this discussion among ourselves many times, and it doesn't matter. I said, what difference does it make if you lock somebody up for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if you turn them out and they go straight back to where they came from? What was the point of all of it? You've changed nothing. This healing center, the big thing about the healing center, and the one thing that I am happy about it, with it, Judge, is it gives people hope.
Amen,
It's
brother.
not just going through a rehab. I know people who's got children that's been through rehab after rehab after rehab. I'm just same place it was when they started.
Growth.
This is different. You're going to get some help, first of all, and you're going to get an opportunity to change their life. And that's what it's all about.
Well, Tom, you know it boils down to the individual wanting to make that decision and wanting to change their lives. But we're trying to give them that opportunity to do that right here. A lot of them don't have that opportunity of just being incarcerated and then turn right back out. But if we follow up with these 3 steps, hopefully give them some life skills, work ethics, and some idea of how real life out on the outside is, that they can adopt to that when they finish our programs here. And that's hope for them.
It's just like that folder that you've got. Show it to everybody. That's tomorrow in Berea. For one day.
And that's the smallest docket we have.
That's what I'm saying. And that's what they go through every day. And I don't know how many of them people end up in jail.
I hope not.
I do too. You can take them home with you.
I don't want any more of that.
Home or jail.
Either way.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
I'd like to make just a quick comment, Reagan.
Sure.
A lot of times in government's main problem is they don't have any competition. There's no real incentive to work hard, only to get reelected is the only incentive. And I want to commend you and Colleen for the work you've done here, and that you're doing the right thing. And this is not easy work. This is hard work. And not only is it hard work, but you are creating something that hasn't been done before, and that needs to be commended. And I won't read you the excerpt from Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech in Paris, but The Man in the Arena is what the excerpt of that speech is called, and it's all about what really counts in a person is that you're trying, and that you're working, and you're doing the best you can. And I appreciate you. Appreciate you both for that.
Thank you, King. I appreciate that. You know, when I came into office, I really wanted to be a leader that invested in solutions, not to just do the same old, not to do the easy thing. Because to do the easy thing would have been to blame things on previous administrations and not worried about solutions. But as long as I'm here, and as long as and my community wants me here, we're going to invest in solutions. You know, we're not going to invest in things that don't work and that are proven not to work. In all this research that we've done, there's 2 things that are not working, and that's factual. And that's arresting and incarcerating. And I have with great confidence I can say that because we wouldn't have the recidivism rates that we have. We wouldn't have the 85–90% drug-related crimes. We would not. I believe in this program that we've come up with and created with all my heart. But a lot of the success in this program is with people out in front of me right now or watching this on TV. We've got to get behind one another. We've got to be examples to our brothers and sisters of our community. We've got to step up and take the bull by the horns. And I want to commend this court. I hope that this court has proven to the taxpayers of Madison County that we are good stewards. That we are good stewards, because I know with all my heart, when I'm sitting in my office at 7 in the morning, I'm making $750,000 cuts to our budget at 7 o'clock at night, that we are good stewards with money. And I think that time has told that. I think that what we've gone through in the last 4 budgets have told this community and the citizens and the taxpayers that to trust us, that we're not wasting money. We didn't take the custodial equipment in this courthouse from $17,000 to $5,000 just because. We did it because we're good stewards. You know, this court up here is not Democrat, Republican. Has nothing to do with that. We just happen to be men that love this community and want to work for the Madison Countyans, not Democrats or Republicans. I was elected to do the right thing for this county, and that's what I'm here to do today. And that's what I'm here to do every fiscal court meeting and every day of the week that I come to work. Every time that I'm at a Memorial Day service, every time that I'm at the grocery store, I face my constituents in the eye. I appreciate them and I know it. I'm honored. I love this community. So we have to make the right decision. It doesn't matter if it's election year to me or not. And if the majority of the community doesn't agree with me, then that's perfectly fine. I have competition in November. But I'm here to do the right thing. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way I'll always be. I appreciate you guys, and I think this meeting will be adjourned unless anybody else has got anything else to say. I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Master Collins?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes.